So I just wondered, when you two first met and you came together, what were the qualities that you saw in each other that you thought he would be a good person to be in a band with?
We met at a charity football match.
Yeah, we did
Like
actually.
maybe
Yeah,
6 years ago.
mental
or something.
health charity. I think, did we win? No, I don't think we won.
Well, I vividly remember me being terrible,
Yeah, I hit the crossbar with a
and
header.
I got subbed off. So
Yeah, but yeah, no, well, that's how we first met. But then it wasn't really. We didn't really know each other were kind of musical, really, as such, that back then. But it wasn't until you were in a band before you asked me to come in and help out play bass because you lost a bass player or something at the time, or fill in for the bass player because you couldn't make it, and that's kind of how we met. And yeah, and then when we actually come to form this band, which was a bit of an accident, I just kind of asked Harry. Then it was kind of the opposite thing happened. I asked Harry if he wanted to play on a couple of tunes I'd written, and then yeah, that's kind of when it spiraled out.
yeah, it started off as a
now.
bit. Yeah, it started off as a bit of a solo project for Dale, and then I kind of came in and kind of was a bit more hands-on than he was anticipating, and then it morphed into a band.
Yeah,
And then
pretty much.
we'd been playing in kind of landfill indie, kind of just generic nonsense, and we were like, it's time to kind of let's try something a wee bit different, and we went more down the electronic route. And granted, at the time it wasn't quite as quite electronic leaning as it is now,
Yeah.
but
It
yeah,
was definitely more guitar focused. It was just the electronic
It's just
drums
gradually just
element
morphed its
and
way into,
synth
yeah.
element that started it. Yeah.
Why did you decide that electronic was that the avenue for you to pursue?
well, I mean, I've always kind of
Weirdly,
listened
we
to
were into it. Yeah, I don't know. I
mean,
was listening to. I can't even remember what I was listening to at the time. Probably a load of Tame Impala and stuff. And I think Currents was a big early influence for me, when I started. But it was more the guitar side of the Tame Impala that I enjoyed more. And then it wasn't really, I don't know what it was. It was just we went to go and see LCD Sound System together, and then we went to see.
and Joe Goddard was supporting.
Yeah, and Joe Goddard was supporting, and then I kind of just, and Jaguar Ma came, and we actually went separately, but ended up at the same gig. And then, yeah, just like got more and more lent towards the electronic side of things, and then we just realised that kind of vibe just suited us better. And the
Yeah,
kind of
just-
mishmash between the two
Just kind of came more to like exchanging like our taste in music, and like me like kind of trying to like drag Dale away from more kind of bluesy kind of stuff into more what I was kind of listening to, and then,
Yeah.
and then you kind of met somewhere in the middle, and then voila, you know.
Yeah, kind of that's how it started, yeah.
Not the most exciting story, but
No.
You mentioned both making music like before this band as well, and you know, writing songs. Do you recall the first song you wrote
Oh, man.
ever?
I do.
Yeah, I do. Because I actually, well, I remember, oh, it was so awkward, man. It gives me the fear thinking about it, but I remember first time, because I used to be in a band that was predominantly blues covers that we did, and started writing some of our own stuff and went to play this show, and I wrote a song that we played live, and I sang in the completely wrong key for the whole song. It was awful, man, awful. And that was the first song, pretty much one of the first songs I wrote, and one of the first songs I sang and performed live as part of this band, which usually somebody else would sing, was the lead singer at the time. I was just playing bass for the band. And then, and safe to say, I never got to sing that much with a band again after that. But yeah, so I've always got the fear ever since that moment. You were in loads of bands before though, weren't you?
Yeah, I've kind of got around a bit with minimal success. And then I think, but my first song, embarrassingly, was I think my girlfriend dumped me, and then I just wrote a song about that, and then you know people liked it.
As you do, man.
She didn't like it.
What band were you in at the time?
I'd rather not say.
I was hoping you'd just
I'll just keep that.
keep that.
I'll tell you later.
How old were you when you wrote your first song?
Oh man, must have been about 18 or something, 19.
Roughly around there, yeah.
Because I was.
The first time it was like listenable.
No, that's the first ever. I think that was probably my first ever tune. Was 17, 18, maybe
Yeah,
19.
about the same as well.
Because I never even picked up. I literally picked up a bass guitar when I was leaving school and starting uni. I would have been 17, and that's when I first picked up a bass guitar. And that was the first time I picked up really properly. Obviously, I played music class and stuff at school, but that's pretty much the only thing. And that's kind of how it started. I was a bass player. That's all I use.
So was
It was terrible bass player to start with. Even now, probably still a terrible bass player.
You're pretty good, mate.
Yeah.
I think you're good. This is a story for another day, I think, just where there's a deep chat here.
Even when you look back to, you know, like writing those first songs at 18 or 17, are there themes when you first started writing that you noticed that carry through all your work up until now, that are still present, or?
I'm quite a big fan of like quite poppy hooks, quite like more melodic approach. Whereas you've got a more like kind of bluesy background, don't you?
Yeah.
And it kind of, I mean, I don't know if it's still, you can say it's like in a current kind of approach to.
Yeah, I don't know actually. It's a weird one. When I write lyrics, when I wrote lyrics before, it was kind of like.
Because we're both different people.
Yeah, weird.
From
I
then,
don't know. Probably the themes are very similar. It's just I've got a more, maybe a fresh kind of outlook. I could look back on something now and probably think, oh, what was I thinking? You know, I've got like a more of a.
Yeah, that's a big one for me. Like.
Yeah, everything was a lot more on the nose and kind of like you said exactly. You know, when you were younger, you kind of, although maybe the themes are very similar now, how you said it before was a lot more kind of like this happened, this happened, this happened, well, and now it's a little bit more kind of you go, you know, kind of around.
Try
the back.
to be a bit more, ambiguous about it.
Yeah,
whereas
so the themes are very similar, but how you actually deliver it is how it kind of it's changed now.
Well, we try to be.
At least, yeah.
We try our very best. Sometimes not so great.
One of the things that I get from it as well, obviously I don't have any way to tell them, but it feels honest to me, the songwriting. Like a lot of great songwriters, it feels like you're being honest with your songwriting. Do you think by doing that you become more honest as people, by being honest songwriters, or just in general in life?
Good question.
I think you feel a bit more confident about kind of exposing yourself a wee bit more, because there's obviously like a sense of like if you're getting on stage and you're singing songs or you're writing about a certain topic, which predominantly in our kind of music, I mean, I can't speak on behalf of Dale's lyrics, but is more kind of personal. You know, I think you've got to be prepared to like be open to ridicule and like okay with that. I feel like as we've gotten a bit older, I think you're a bit more comfortable about that. Just be like, this is it, you know.
Yeah, I find to be it's easier for me to I think be more emotional in a song and because I wouldn't say I'm a very. I don't want to sound like a serial killer here, but I'm not a very. I wouldn't say like I'm so much of a
emotionless.
I'm not emotionless, but I wouldn't be over emotional about things. But it's more. I find it quite a good avenue to kind of you get all that emotion out in a song, and I feel like hopefully people find that, but who knows? Yeah.
Is it almost like therapy in that way?
Yeah, I'm a big believer of that. I feel like, regardless of whether your music's perceived as successful or not, to an outside kind of audience, I feel even if you're writing music or being creative or writing for someone else, or just in any context, it's a good way to kind of get a release, you know.
Yeah, totally.
And that could apply to anything, like any form of a hobby or just anything like that. It's a good thing to, therapy, as you said.
Is that how you judge whether your music's successful or not? Whether it's kind of doing that for you and.
I think you have to, really.
To me, like even if everybody else hates the songs, if I like the song and it's kind of a moment, it's usually the songs are of a moment and they've got to capture something there, you know, and it's just there all the time as a reminder, as a memento, I suppose. Yeah.
I mean, looking to the sonic side of it as well, away from the lyrics, what decade do you think you take the most influence from?
That's a really hard question.
Yeah.
We always seem to be like labelled with being quite influenced from the 80s, which is, for me especially, is like, yeah, definitely. But
weirdly,
going back to the 70s and 60s, more so 60s for you.
Yeah. Like
really.
maybe from more my guitar style, I think it's changed since I started purely because a lot of the stuff that I would normally have played before didn't really fit with the style because it went with more electronic side. And to be honest with you, I listened to maybe a couple of 80s tunes, a couple of 80s bands way back, but I wouldn't say I was like, I listened to them that much that I'm like, I wanted to deliberately take elements from that, I think. It's maybe influenced it from indirectly for me personally. But I know a lot of the beats and stuff for you come are very, whether or not they're meant to be, but I don't know, I just take influence from everyone.
Yeah, same for me, yeah.
Do you ever go like, there's also mentioned like 80s and 70s and 60s there, but do you go 90s as well? Because I can hear a lot of like Moby and stuff, like in Love, Love, Love and that. And
yeah, I
You've listened to I think you've listened to pretty much every song, every band, ever.
We'll try to.
So yeah, like every band I mentioned, this man's heard it or listen. Oh yeah, listen, I've got it on vinyl or something. And whereas I think I'm a little bit more.
Even the other day, like someone thought like one of our songs sounded like Pure Shores by All Saints. You know, like kind of that kind of era, kind of like late 90s. Yeah, but like Moby's a good one, yeah. It's a good shout. Yeah, definitely. I've been caught.
Have you always been obsessed with music? Or what you're saying there, how you know everything?
Yeah.
Weirdly, I never really was obsessed with it until, like, I still actually started properly writing stuff. I think, and I realised that it was quite therapeutic to write a tune.
What do you mean in terms of like creatively or consuming it, or do you like?
Both, because I never really played music, and like when I was younger, apart from like, music at school, I listened to it quite a bit. I was kind of weirdly listening to I started listening to like Block Party, and then I would listen to Peter Green's Fleetwood Mac, but mainly because of the band I was in at the time. That's the kind of influences we had then. So we were listening to Eric Clapton, the Blues Breakers, and that kind of style. And then I wouldn't say I was like obsessed with music. I'd always listen to it, I suppose. And it's more when I got older, I've realised that actually creating it has probably been a little bit more predominant.
I think now that you've got the access to like literally anything, like if I use my phone, I can with like Spotify or Apple Music, you can listen to anything. You know, you can just like you're allowed to. It's a bit easier to be obsessed with music.
Yeah, it's easier to create music as well now.
Yeah, definitely.
So it just makes it easier for someone to just come up with a tune. Within an hour, you could have something.
Just anybody in their bedroom. But that's been the case for a long time. So.
Yeah, I suppose.
As you've like gotten older, you know yourself, you're saying you become more obsessed with it. Has the reason you listen to music changed at all, or has that always stayed a constant and stayed the same?
I just listen to music a lot more now, though. But I mix it up between music and podcasts these days. Yeah.
Yeah, I try and listen to music. It's dependent on my mood. Like I can't really listen to Radiohead in the summer, you know, for example, you know. And then, you know, it just totally depends on what frame of mind you're in,
yeah,
what the weather's like outside. Just really kind of mundane, boring things like that can influence like your.
Yeah, or listen, even an older band. Like if you just find a band, like I found a band recently, and that I'd never even heard of before, just randomly come across them. And
well, that goes back to the streaming.
I was like, wow, that's like, and now I've been obsessed with that band recently for like a couple of albums worth of stuff that I've been just listening to on repeat for a while. It's just stuck. Yeah, weird. I wouldn't say why I listen to it though. I just listen to it. I just like it. You know, don't have a specific reason.
Well, that's good to know.
At what point in your creative process as well did you become like comfortable with the music you were making and feel like you kind of found your sound a bit? At what point did that happen?
Still not happened.
No, I'm going to be serious about this one.
Okay.
No, I'd say probably about maybe 4 or 5 tracks in that were recorded. I think we kind of figured out like this is what we want to be, which kind of made it a bit difficult for playing older stuff or hearing older stuff's like Success.
Yeah.
I think you're kind of getting to a stage like I know what I want a Better Way song to sound like.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Yeah, and not, who knows, like the next song could be totally different, but like I think we've got a general idea of like, that's maybe a bit too far this way, and this is maybe a bit too far that way. So, but yeah, definitely more recently I think we're pretty comfortable in our own skin, I think.
It's probably more because we're just learning how everything works. Like all the electronic side of things works, is you're getting a bit more like savvy with the actually how the software and stuff like that's used.
Yeah,
and
so
it's like you kind of understand the nuances of each of the different synths we've got, and we finally got synths we like. And you know, it's a bit of that kind of morphs the sound, and you're like, actually, that sounds nice. Maybe not necessarily the same as maybe the older stuff, but it's kind of like...
Yeah, well, I mean, like, there was a stage when, you know, with the older stuff, you'd go into a room with someone, you know, you paid to help make your idea come to life, and you've got an idea in your head of what you want it to sound like, and it might come out, the finished product, and it sound completely different, and you're like, wow, that's not really what I wanted. Whereas now I feel like we can go in a room and be like, this is what not say your vision, but like
you've got a better idea, and you have it sort of nailed down a little bit more. So when you
not all the time, doesn't happen all the time, but you know, you can come out with a fully formed, not product, but a thing that you're like, I'm proud of that, I'm happy with that. So.
Yeah.
If you know how you want it to sound, does that make it easier or harder to experiment then?
Both.
Yeah, I'd say both.
Both, because you kind of it's easier to it's harder to experiment from
I think we're pretty experimental in a sense, but we know what kind of parameters to follow.
Yeah, we're kind of both quite open to change and stuff. Like you could, because think about how we write a track, we kind of just throw it backwards and forwards, and Like the bit that I liked to start with, Harry changed it completely, and I was like, actually, that sounds better, but I didn't at the time. So there is, it's still.
I think having 2 points of view from it, rather than one singular kind of vision, is like you have two ideas, and then you kind of throw them together, and then you see what you take the best of both parts.
Take the best of both parts. That's always the way we've ever done it.
Sometimes it means like sacrificing a bit that you maybe have an emotional connection to, and you're like.
But then eventually you're like, actually, that when you think about it,
in the grand scheme of things, if you think of the bigger picture, you know, more of a team mentality, I think.
How do you maintain like a sense of perspective as well, and where you want to push the sound? How do you know how far to push it and for it not to go too far?
Oh, we don't.
No, we don't. We're just going to keep, like, every song we listen to influences the songs that we write. Every song that we write is different from the next, to be honest, I think. Even, like, I think a lot of people kind of try and, they can't really nail us down to specific, like, influences or categories because, well, you could think the Love, Love, Love sounds totally different from I'd Love sounds totally different to Let It Out sounds totally different to Melt, and it's all, like...
But that
which is a good thing. I mean, I'm not.
That was never really.
That was never intentional.
It was never intentional.
Just,
I think
it was just that's what we heard at the time.
The more eclectic approach to the music was really through being naive and not really having a clear idea of what we wanted to do. It wasn't like some conscious decision.
Or a master
plan. It was just
was it?
lack of time, lack of budget, and that's really about it.
I've got one left.
Go on.
What's the most frustrating part of being in a band?
Lugging your gear from the van to the venue, setting everything up for a fucking sound check. For a sound check.
Want to do that again?
Yes. Taking the gear out the van, putting it into a venue, setting it up for a half an hour sound check, and then trying to get it off the stage, but still connected. To bring it back on stage for the live show
really
and nothing ever to work.
I would just say that I get quite frustrated by playing only a 30-minute set. I don't feel like you can really express yourself. That sounds really pretentious, but I don't. I prefer when we play like we've tried in a recent show. We played everything, and we played everything we had, and we played about over an hour, and even for some of the songs we were really passionate about, like newer ones, we played it and people were just talking. So that was a wee bit of a learning curve, I think, but that was probably one of the most frustrating things, not being able to play longer sets. But really, ideally, I mean, if I was going to a show, just play the hits, shut up and play the hits, and get off stage.
How do you cope with like the way it is today as well, now that you have to put out singles, you can't put out EPs really anymore, or if you do it, you have to put it out single by single. How do you kind of feel about that and cope with that?
Yeah, that's been quite a big continuous topic in the band, I would say.
Initially we wanted to do an EP, didn't we?
Yeah, that conversation's come up like from day one. Times. Yeah, we said we wanted to put something out, but like an EP. But what's the point? Because the way people consume it is just predominantly singles. So
they just pick and choose what they want to listen to, and if and that's kind of it.
I think our next batch of music will be will be released just as singles, I think. Going forward, yeah.
But
when you're consuming it, do you like resonate with music more if it's an EP or an album, or if it's a
album? Yeah. I'm quite
album.
Old school with that. I still collect like LPs and stuff, so I like to listen to it like A side, B side. You know?
I mean, singles good, but like good example from like recent memory is the new Tame Impala stuff. I listened to the first 2 tracks he brought out, and I was like,
Well, no, I really like them.
Yeah, I mean, they're good, but I wasn't...
They're better than the newer ones he's released.
I wasn't sold on them, right, until there was more released, and you listen to them kind of next to each other, and you're like, I get it now. I understand how it works.
Because you understand,
singles are fine if it's a single, but...
when it's maybe played on the radio.
Yeah, then a single's a single, isn't it? But if you're trying to release album tracks as like individually or EP songs individually, they don't quite... together they work, as a unit, but maybe separately they don't.
Yeah, like it's hard to really take music in like context, like because you want certain songs might be, this is meant to be like a down part of the album, or this is like the more obscure track, and you can't really release that as a single. That's going to be your only track for 4 months. So whereas if you bring an album out, it's like it makes sense, like Dale said about those tracks there.
Has that ever happened, like when you're creating your own music, like what you're saying there? Well, you maybe not liked the song when you first made it, but then when you've heard it, maybe later on when you've made a few more, like in the context of them, it makes more sense, or?
Yeah, big time.
Yeah, I think so.
A
couple of tracks that we've got exactly the same.
There's a few tracks we've got that we would never release as singles, but they would sound really great on, again, in the format of like a a bundle. You'd be like, oh, this is the more kind of weird, or this is the less good track. Yeah, but yeah, I mean, it's a necessary evil, I guess.
Yes, yeah, I know. I for me, I prefer listening to a whole album. You kind of get the gist of an artist more.
It's that really, isn't it?
Yeah, it just depends on what people's preference. I know people just like to drop songs into a playlist and then just listen to them all.
Well, it's a playlist culture now, isn't it? Really,
yeah,
it's more.
It's weird, eh?
Well, I mean, yeah, people want to listen to singles more than it's just the way the cookie crumbles, really.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you for that. It was really good.
No,
Thanks.
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.